Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, making my return to the video series, taking a deeper look into Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, answering the question, why is it still so playable? And today I'm focusing on Dragonlance Adventures. So originally this was supposed to be part 13. I had Greyhawk Adventures to do first. That's chronologically the one that came in, came in before this. However, considering today's news about, Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, obviously the authors of Dragonlance, filing a lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast for for breach of contract over an upcoming series, a trilogy of Dragonlance novels. I felt it's kind of important to get this out there and to take a look at it while the iron is hot. So, without further ado, here is the hardcover. Let me switch screens here. And so, originally I was not going to pick this up, but the completionist in me got the better of me, and I ended up saying, you know what? If I can get it cheap, I will pick it up. Now, this was released in 1987, and 1987 was around the last year that that my AD&D group, or really my role-playing group, kind of broke apart in 1987. We had played for about 10 years a variety of games, but mostly Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And by 87, we were already 2 years out of high school and going our separate ways. Whether it be getting out of the 2-year college and going longer distances. One of our group members joined the Navy. I was still working in college, partially, and then I wouldn't go into the Army until 1990. But the group pretty much broke apart, and so this coming out in 1987, I didn't quite get it. I didn't get it then, and probably wouldn't have anyway, because by that point we had already played through the Dragonlance modules, and I'm fairly certain we played through them all. We were certainly big fans of Dragonlance, especially I was a huge fan of Dragonlance. Having gone to Gen Con 18 in 1985 and meeting everybody, which was really exciting. And, I got everybody's signatures and had dinner, with Tracy Hickman and Douglas Niles and Roger Moore and just a whole slew of people that were in that VIP dinner, at Gen Con 18. So it was really an experience of a lifetime. But I didn't get around to purchasing this. So I picked this up because it was one of the last books that I picked up. I was probably willing to go a little bit higher with this one, and I think I paid probably around $40 for this. But it is in excellent condition, considering the book is 30 years old. So, still very good on the corners, and the paper and everything, and obviously the cover is still extremely vibrant and not scuffed up or scratched up or anything of the kind. So, really good purchase. I'm happy, to have it on there. I will talk a little bit about the, today's event at the end of this video, but let's get right into the PDF. Now, this is the first time that I am actually looking through the PDF in any detail, or the book. I got it a couple weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, and immediately shoved it on my shelf, and I was going through that in order process of this. I just didn't want to put this off until later on in the week, when the news is as big as it is today. So without further ado, let's switch over to the PDF. So here we have the PDF, and it's written by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weis. It came out in 1987. Cover still by Jeff Easley, so I think virtually everything for quite a while of the series has been a cover by Jeff Easley. They give their special thanks to David Cook, Jeff Grubb, Doug Niles. Here's the preface. So this is a source book, very much different than any of the other books that that I've so far covered, and it's even different from the fact that when I do the Greyhawk Adventures source book, Greyhawk Adventures was Greyhawk was the official AD&D setting at the time. Second edition didn't come out yet, and so Forgotten Realms wasn't released at that time, or at least it certainly wasn't, on our radar as far as my gaming group was concerned. So this is pretty much it. The AD&D first edition setting was Greyhawk. So this is an addition to that, a total supplement and a setting supplement. So let's go a little bit bigger here. And just taking a look at the table of contents, you can already start to see how in-depth this is going to be. Just by the amount of information that's already here. So we have the realm above, the universe, orders of the universe, the place of mortals, the law of consequence. Then you have a lot in life, characters in Kryn, travelers from beyond, acceptable character classes, and so on. The Knights of Solamnia and their origins, and all through you have tinkerers, which are gnomes, wizards of high sorcery, and we'll go through perhaps the different conclaves or factions amongst wizards. So you have the Tower of High Sorcery, the Tower of Wayreth, the Shokan Grove of the Tower of Palanthas, the Tower of High Sorcery of Palanthas, and so on. It's been a little while since I've read the books, and certainly, probably a couple decades since I've read the books. But I got all the books on audio recently, within the last 2 years or so, and I did listen through at least the first trilogy, probably the first 2 trilogies so far. And we go on: the gods of good, the gods of neutrality, and the gods of evil. The races of Kryn, which you have during the Age of Twilight, you have the Kender, which are basically halflings, just slight differences. You have gnomes, you have elves, you have dwarves. And then we get to the creatures of Kryn, where you have the primary antagonists are the Draconians. Dream shadows, dream wraiths, ice bears, and such. The world that was. So it looks like they have tales of long ago. A map of, some maps here. NPCs of long ago. So these are like the ancient history. So you do have the stats of the peoples of legend. Then we go to the War of the Lands, which is where the story really, picks up, in both the novels and in the adventure modules that were released. And so we start bringing you up to speed there, personalities of the Age of Dragons, and this goes through everyone, including the adventure party here. Charts and tables, because it wouldn't be first edition without charts and tables. But start taking a look at this really quickly. Once again, the seemingly industry standard of 130 pages long, so that must be the TSR standard. Every book in first edition must be 130 pages. So, alignments and the gods. The law of consequence. Let's see what this is about. Each of the three alignments in the universe of Krynn espouses its own philosophy. These philosophies are the roots of the moral action in the world of Krynn. Good redeems its own. Evil feeds upon itself. Both good and evil must exist in contrast. All right, so I guess that is the good, the bad, and the neutral. The law of consequence. This final law was given by the High God himself to rule over all other laws. For every law and rule that is obeyed, there is a reward and blessing. For every law transgressed, there is a punishment. Blessings and punishments may not come about immediately, but they occur eventually. So your character's lot in life. We have standard classes. So clerics are heathen. Clerics who worship gods other than the true gods are considered heathens. Druids, also heathens. The Holy Order of the Stars. Fighters. Barbarians. Rangers. Cavaliers. Paladins. And the Knights of Solamnia. You have magic users, which are renegade. Illusionists, which are renegade. And then you have wizards of the high sorcery. You have thieves, which are known as handlers, thief acrobats. So you can see definitely a product of AD&D first edition and a product that is post Unearthed Arcana. With, once you start seeing cavaliers and barbarians and thief acrobats, you kind of know that you're in a system that is post Unearthed Arcana. General limitations in Krynn. Player characters in other worlds can advance to unlimited levels, but not in Krynn. Once a player character advances beyond 18th level, the gods of Krynn feel that it is time to reassign him to some other world. Fortunately for the lovers of Krynn, advancement beyond 18th level is not mandatory. Your PC has the unique ability to refuse such advancement and thereby stay within the world of Krynn. It is up to you. All right, so that's an interesting twist to the world. The Knights of Solamnia. The Knights of Solamnia were once the greatest order of chivalry in all the history of Krynn. Now their entire way of life shifts in precarious balance between the code of honor and the truth of what the world has become. Go through the origin of the Knights. The organization of the knighthood. And you'll notice, like, if you played through the adventures and you're very familiar with the Dragonlance storyline, it's very difficult not to play one of these characters within this setting. So it's almost as if you're not really in a Dragonlance setting unless at least one of the player characters is a Knight of Solamnia, unless one of the player characters is a wizard, and most likely of the of the Tower of High Wizardry, or at least aspiring to become a wizard accepted into the Tower of High Wizardry. So it's kind of hard to separate your characters from the setting and not being involved in some way with that overall storyline. It's almost like playing in Middle Earth and not having the story of the ring bearer be at the very least on a parallel line of storytelling that is taking place in the world that your characters are playing in. So it's kind of locked into that whole expectation of what you would find playing in this setting. The Knights of the Rose, the epitome of all that is good and honorable in the knighthood. And yet, Lord Sloth is a fallen Knight of the Rose, and he becomes a Death Knight. So, tinkers, gnomes. Tinkers are gnomes, and gnomes are tinkers. It is their gift and curse to be the masters or pawns of technology. Excuse me. So it's a tinker class, and so the class is, I'm assuming, it's very specific to gnomes. Here are some of their skills of hydraulics, aerodynamics, chemistry, communication, kinetics, hydrodynamics, thermodynamics, transportation, appliances, and architecture. So you get an introduction of technology into AD&D, probably more in depth than what you saw in Barrier Peak's adventure, where that was really much more advanced technology anyway, with laser guns and those kinds of things. But this is the technology of the world itself. It's not otherworldly technology that crash landed on Kryn here. You can see quite a lot of information for these tinkerers. And I'm assuming that there'll be an equal amount of information for each of the classes and their specialty areas. So the Wizards of the High Sorcery, the Moons of Magic, and so the phase of the moon, I guess, affects magic, yes. Affects saving throws, allows for additional spells, and affects the level of those spells. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool mechanic to make things kind of interesting. You have Spheres of Magic, which have always been in the game, but perhaps they play a more significant role here in Kryn. The Tower of High Sorcery. The primary being the Tower of Wayreth. Or was it Palanthus? I'm not quite sure. I have to reread. The tower during Raceland's rule. So that probably comes in after probably after Test of the Twins, or perhaps during Test of the Twins, which is the second trilogy. Wizards of the White Robe, Wizards of the Red Robes, Wizards of the Black Robes. Raistlin was a Wizard of the Black Robes, if I do recall correctly. Maybe he was red. Renegade Wizards. Let's see. Wizards who attempt to live outside the law of the Towers of Sorcery are known as Renegade Wizards. Wizards from other campaigns who do not quickly contact the heads of the order they wish to join will find themselves in a position of being considered a renegade wizard. Renegade wizards are considered by all orders to be a menace to the balance of magic in the world. It was only the barest of margins that Raistlin, a magic user of extraordinary powers, retained his station in the Order of the Black Robes, since he was obviously intent upon defying them by entering the abyss and challenging the gods. Why the conclave did not order his destruction is unknown. Most believe that it was because they feared they would not be able to stop him. Thus, they sent the dark elf apprentice wizard, Dalamar, to spy on him and eventually attempt to destroy him. Illusion and Kryn. Spells of high sorcery, so they have unique spells to the world. And we've only gone through 39 pages here, and as I said, you're going to see with almost every supplement and core book of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, just a wealth of information. Okay. Here we have the section on the gods. The races of Kryn. And let's see if we have a picture of a Kender. Basically the halflings. I am surprised they didn't have a picture of the Kender. Sylvanesti are the high elves of Kryn. Qualinesti, Cogonesti are wild elves. Qualinesti are not sure what kind of elves they are. Sea elves are Dragonlance and Dimmernesti. Dark elves. Half elves. Tanis Half Elven is the most famous of the half elves. Gully dwarves. Character proficiencies, so there's a whole list of non-weapon proficiencies. Most of these look like they're from the Wilderness Survival Guide or the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. There might be a few unique ones. So here's a Draconian. And the various types. Some could fly, others could not. Some could use magic. So this is the goddess Takesis, which is basically Tiamat in a different different name for Tiamat. Pre-cataclysm is kind of the history of the world now. NPCs long ago. Magic items of Kryn. So you can see it's a very dense volume with pretty much every aspect of information, of life, of culture, of geography, magic items, individuals, everything that you could, really need to run a full, long length campaign in this world setting. I mean, they even get into climate, personalities of the age. So Raceland is a 20th level human black robe wizard. Lord Soth was a Solamnic Death Knight. Kitiara, a 15th level human fighter. Several dwarves. You can see very high level characters here. So Alistan is an 18th level human cleric of Paladin. And Karaman, Raceland's brother, is a 12th level human fighter. Tasselhoff is a 12th level Kender thief. Tika Mejir is a 10th level human fighter. Tanis Half Elven is a 12th level half elf ranger fighter. Unified Ansalon monster chart. Character class statistics range table. Racial minimums and maximum table. And we're just about done. Gnome mishap table. Spheres of influence for the various deities. And we are still in that section there. And that's pretty much it. Let's see. Ninth circle table. Yes, and that is it. excuse me. So, if you are interested in, taking a break from an AD&D first edition campaign that you're running in a different setting, then Dragonlance obviously opens up a fully in-depth new realm for you to take a stab at and to see how you can run a campaign in this setting using this supplement here, as well as, using the other resources like you can glean a lot from the adventures, the adventure modules, and also directly from the novels, and such from it as well. So certainly something that you'd want to have if you're a collector like I am and kind of a completionist. It's kind of required to have it. So now that I have all 13, of the books in the series, I'm really quite happy that I've completed that series up, and I have one more to go. Like I said, I went out of order here, so the next one in this video series will be Greyhawk Adventures, which was the setting that I played in, and so I'm looking forward to dealing with that. And as I said, so we'll certainly be taking a look at how this lawsuit kind of pans out, with very high interest in it, because I think there's a lot going on in the hobby as it relates to Dungeons and Dragons and WotC and 5th edition, and how WotC has been looking at the TSR franchises of their role-playing games back in the pre-2000 era. Excuse me. And it hasn't been it hasn't been positive, and that's I have not been shy about saying that I think that WotC has has not been looking favorably upon the intellectual property that they did purchase it, but I think that they're increasingly showing a lack of respect for those whose shoulders they stood upon. And that is something that I don't think they're going to fare very well in this, in this challenge with individuals like Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, who are both beyond reproach as far as their ambassadorship of this hobby. If you're not aware, Dragonlance is what salvaged Dungeons and Dragons in the mid to late 80s. Dragonlance is what carried it through the Satanic Panic. Dragonlance is what mainstreamed it to an extent and gave it that extra, breath of fresh air. Without Dragonlance, there might not have been a second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and so this has been key for. Sorry about that. This has been key for saving. Sorry. This has been key for saving the hobby, or certainly the Dungeons and Dragons franchise of the late 80s and early 90s, which, I do not believe would have occurred without Dragonlance really driving it forward. So once again, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Like I said, I have one more one more book to preview or review for this series, and then I will get into some of the key Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition adventure modules, and I'll go through those, or at least certainly, a handful or more of those that I think are prime examples of some of the best of First Edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons adventures, and then we'll see where we go next. Maybe I'll start taking a look at Second Edition as a follow up to this series here, but. Other than that, let's just go forward, enjoy gaming, take a look and follow along at what's going on with with this lawsuit. It should be a really interesting ride, and see how it pans out. And hopefully they come up with something that leaves everybody everybody satisfactorily compensated for what they're deserving of, and and hopefully they move forward, and hopefully the upcoming trilogy of Dragonlance doesn't get shelved, because that would have been something really interesting to see where they take the the franchise forward. So once again, thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You'll have a great evening, and take care.